Hey everyone, welcome back to Star Wars Galaxies, with me, Super Vader Man, and someone you have not met yet. This is Kalando. He is my very first ever character that I have ever created on Star Wars Galaxies. And yeah, I decided that, I would end where I started off, very first character I ever created. I figured last thing I do in Star Wars Galaxies is, you know, put him in his final resting place. And this would be that. This would be Kalando's home. This was the very first house that I ever put down too, and I've never moved it since. I put down this house. It used to be part of a player city, the very first player city I ever joined too, called Detroit Rock City. That city has since been gone from the game, I suppose. I guess there's no cities left. Get all those contested zones away. I guess the only player city left is New Hope. Huh. Yes, I joined that city because, you know, this like the very first person I ever really got to know. Willie Spectre. He was all like, "Hey, you should join our guild." I'm like, "Oh, sure, why not?" And he gave me a house and set down my house and put it in Player City. Got to know Willie Spectre, Germanicus Thorn, guild leader, both very respectable names. And it's not, this house isn't much. It's not as lavishly decorated. It's a lot more down to earth than Crunch Bars. And you got the weapon wall. You got like some plants around here. Some very humble paintings. So we got like the dining room over here. This is when they reintroduced forageable foods into the game. I just like spent like an hour outside just collecting foraged stuff and made a dining room. There's some fish that I caught. Just hung those up on the wall. There's this area. I made my own sound system out of some starship capacitors and some resource survey devices. And there's a little disk slot, decryptor. Oh yeah, I even made a table out of resource containers. I forgot about that. That's funny. Oh, and a computer made out of junk loot. I remember that. Little computer terminal. Well, here's my little shelf of wonders. Little shelf of just random crap, like a decryptor, binoculars, and just a bunch of random stuff. Very sparsely decorated, but I was so proud of it at the time. Here's my Imperial room, I suppose. Yep, the tie bodysuits and such. Imperial Ace. Some paintings. Yeah, if you couldn't tell from the title, like the main purpose of this is to The main purpose of this episode is for me to basically reminisce on things that I enjoyed about Star Wars Galaxies. And just sort of remembering, like, where it all began, like, the people I used to know. Check my friends list. None of them play the game anymore, but, you know, they're there. You know, Dramaticus Thorn, panel with the, like, Shipwright, Willius Spectre, and I forget who these other people are. Yeah, you know, I'm just kind of taking it all in again. I'm actually recording this before the final 2 days. I'm recording this on December 13th. So, but I'm gonna like make this like the final episode. And yeah, no more like random like reminiscing, just remembering things. I actually like prepared like a little speech thing of like everything I wanted to say about Star Wars Galaxies. I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. So yeah, I should probably warn you, you know, if you're not really interested in my opinion and like you just want to see gameplay, that's not gonna be this episode. It's just gonna be me sharing my opinion on things. And for the most part, Kalando's pretty much just gonna like be sitting here, just looking, just staring at you. I'm gonna take off his helmet, his specially made creature handling helmet, which doesn't apply anymore. That's green on purple. It looks nice. Got pretty blue eyes. But anyways, got my papers here. Yeah, I guess I'll start reading. Now, before I start talking about Star Wars Galaxies, you know, I want to make something clear. You know, and that being my general taste in games, you know, what I enjoy about them, you know, what kind of games make me tick. And the biggest of those is role-playing games. You know, I just love role-playing games, specifically the character building aspect. You know, just like building up your character, building up your character's stats, his possessions. You know, it feels good to build someone up that started out as nothing and turn them into something great. You know, especially if it's my character. Especially if it's my character. And not just like some pre-made character that someone else made. Okay, now to a lesser extent, I also enjoy sandbox games. Games that just kind of like drop you into this open world and say, you know, do what you want, basically. Like, you might have an overall goal, you know, but for the most part you're, you know, free to do whatever. But, you know, I say I enjoy sandbox games to a lesser extent, because I don't really care for sandbox games just in and of themselves. Like, you know, there has to be something in that sandbox that I enjoy and that I can play around with. You know, like role-playing elements. You know, it's why I don't really care for games like Grand Theft Auto, Gary's Mod. You know, like those kind of sandboxes. There's nothing in them that appeals to me. And it's instead why I like games like the Elder Scrolls series, you know, Oblivion, Skyrim. Why I like games like Animal Crossing, Harvest Moon. You know, sandboxes that have those RPG elements. You know, where you can build your character, build your possessions, like as you're exploring this like huge world. And that's why I especially like Star Wars Galaxies. You know, it has all those things. It has the huge open worlds, you know, multiple open worlds, mind you, not just one. And, you know, it has the RPG stuff, the characters that you create, you know, Kalando, Urk, Crunchbar, all those are my characters. I made them. That's what makes them especially appealing to me. Where was I? I built them up from nothing, basically, into something. That's what I like to do. I just love doing that. I did it with their characters, I did it with their gear, Crunchbar's house, Kalando's house, sparse as it is. I still made this. All their starships, especially their starships. The space game in Star Wars Galaxies, is and always has been just absolutely amazing to me. And, on top of all that, it's all set in the Star Wars universe. And, who doesn't love Star Wars? Nobody who is watching this video. Anyways. And, on top of that even, it's the original trilogy. So, it's got X-Wings, it's got TIE Fighters, it's got Darth Vader. All that iconic imagery from the original trilogy that we all know and love. And just all of that, all of those things that I enjoy, it all comes together to make a game that's kept me playing for 4 years, I think. I think it was 4 years. Maybe 4.5. Something like that. But, despite all that, it's not a perfect game. It's not by any stretch of the imagination. Hell no, it's not a perfect game. It's not even a great game, to be perfectly honest. It has a lot of flaws. Despite it being like an open sandbox where you can, quote-unquote, do anything you want, there just isn't a lot to do. Entire worlds are just completely barren, with like, a few scattered points of interest that, more often than not are just completely inconsequential. They're just kind of there. You can't do anything with them. Just entire cities that have no purpose. Tyrina. What's important about Tyrina? What was that one on Naboo? Deja Peak? Just completely empty with like nothing but like one quest or something that's associated with it. It's like, they just have a starport, a shuttleport, a bazaar, and that's it. It's just the bare necessities to call it a city. When really, most every city should have been more like Mustafar. Each city would be like this huge quest hub with like the content scattered throughout the world. Like in Mustafar, there was the Mensix mining facility. You go in, there's like, 10, 20 quests in the facility. And then you go throughout the planet, just doing them all. It was pretty cool. Like, you just explore and find things. It's awesome. And, even then, a lot of the content that is in the game, it's fairly lackluster, It's like the legacy quests, go here to kill 10 guys. Go there, click on something. Just mindless tasks, usually, with a few exceptions. Like the Imperial theme park, that was just a chore, honestly, to get through. And, that's not even mentioning, like, the game's, like, spotty history. The combat upgrade, the new game enhancements. The new game enhancements, probably, like the biggest, most devastating change to an MMO, like, ever. To an already existing MMO, to boot, already has this established fan base. And, the change just completely obliterates that. And, on top of that, just Sony Online's questionable business practices in general. you know, like the trading card game thing. Uh, you know, just all sorts of things, you know. And, you know, just a whole laundry list of problems and just wasted potential with this game. And, you know, I could keep going, honestly, but, you know, no real need to, I guess. And if you noticed, I said I only enjoyed the game for 4 years. Yeah, but I actually started playing like six and a half years ago. You know, I just got bored of the game. I got to a point where I felt I had nothing left to do. You know, I had really great gear, I had done all the heroics like 20 times over. I actually got tired of space, which is, you know, saying something considering how great it is. And, you know, even the role-playing. You know, I didn't mention this, but, you know, big role-player, or Grover was like my main role-playing character. But yeah, role-playing. You know, something that had been like a big part of my enjoyment of the game for like 3 of those years. You know, it got to a point where my character Urk didn't have anywhere else to go in his story. You know, not anywhere that I was interested in playing through anyways. You know, he like got a girlfriend. You know, Tuscan getting a girlfriend is like, you know you've done it all when ... You know, so I quit. I didn't come back for 2 years. You know, and that was only when I heard the game was shutting down. And, you know, even then it wasn't because I felt like... It wasn't because of, like, any kind of genuine interest in the game. You know, instead it was because I felt like, you know, I owed it to the game. I owed it to the game to do, like, you know, at least a half-decent Let's Play. You know, I can't really be the judge of that, though. That's for you guys to decide. Yeah, I felt like I owed it to the game to do a Let's Play of it before it went. You know, and why do I owe anything to the game? You know, it's just a game, you know. A game that I paid to play. You know, I shouldn't owe anything, you know. I shouldn't owe anything, should I? You know, well, here's the thing with that. You know, I started playing this game back when I was like 14. Yeah, it's like, you know, I'm in my early teens. I have all these hormones going on, and you know, it's like the littlest thing makes it seem like your whole life, like your whole world's just gonna like explode. You know? And then this amazing thing called Star Wars Galaxies enters my life at that point. You know, that coupled with the inevitable drama of role-playing. Yeah, it's largely because of this game that I have the worldly views and my perspective on things. You know, they are what they are today because of Star Wars Galaxies. And, you know, Star Wars Galaxies has been a major force of change in my life. I mean, you know, that sounds silly, it's just a game, right? But, you know, to me, it's a little bit more than that. And it's for that reason that I felt the need to give this game, like, the best send-off I could provide. You know, which is less than what it deserves, but, you know, whatever. I did my best. And this, this is why I feel compelled to talk about Star Wars: The Old Republic and how it relates to Star Wars Galaxies. You know, I hear a lot of people say things like, oh well, sucks that Galaxies is going away, but hey, that's what the Old Republic's for, right? You know, like it's a replacement. But it's not. I mean, yeah, on the most superficial level it is. They're both Star Wars MMOs, but they're almost nothing alike. It's like not even comparing apples and oranges is like comparing apples and steak. The only thing they have in common is that they're both edible. You know, the only thing the two games have in common is they're both MMOs, and they're both Star Wars. And even then, you know, they're not even the same Star Wars. Galaxies is in the original trilogy era, and, you know, it gets its feeling and its tone from that setting, whereas the Old Republic, you know, doesn't even feel like KOTOR. It's just different. It's like its own thing. So, you know, the two games aren't even like the same flavor of Star Wars. Just in general, they're both Star Wars MMOs. But, you know, it's more than that, though. You know, it's definitely more than that. You know, one of the biggest differences is just the ways the games are designed. You know, as far as game design goes, Galaxies and the Old Republic are just on completely opposite sides of the spectrum from one another. Galaxies is a sandbox. You know, it used to be a pure sandbox, but the NG tempered that a little bit, as it's focused on iconic classes and linear quest structure for the legacy quests. You know, but at its core, Galaxies is still that sandbox. Where the Old Republic, on the other hand, it's a theme park MMO. You know, you see the sights, you ride the rides in one area, move on to the next area, you do all the quests in one area until you're a certain level, move on to the next area, so on and so on. You know, there's very little reason to go back to an area you've already been through. You know, you're just going from place to place. You know, unless you start a new character. But, you know, I guess that's an exception. You know, so yeah, Galaxies and the Old Republic, they're just completely different games from the ground up. You know, not that there's anything wrong with that, you know, just don't compare the two. And it's not that I don't like the Old Republic. You know, I had fun with it when I got into like the closed beta several months back. You might have heard me talk about that in one of the Legacy Quest episodes. You know, it's still an RPG. I do like playing RPGs, as I mentioned. You know, I guess that's another similarity. They're both RPGs. You know, whatever. You know, but even then, you know, there's a difference between the RPGs. And this is probably my main complaint about Star Wars The Old Republic. I'm just gonna admit right now that some of you might not care about this, but, you know, as a role player, this is of particular interest to me. The characters you create in Star Wars The Old Republic are not truly your characters. Let me explain that. You know, they're just merely avatars you create to pilot around another person's story. You know, it's not your character, it's someone else's story, and you're just, you know, doing your thing. And I first took notice of this when there was that whole thing with Mass Effect 2, when people were asking, you know, why aren't there any gay romances for Shepard? And BioWare was all like, well, it's not the Shepard we envisioned. And, you know, that made me pause. That made me pause and go, huh. Made me realize that, you know, like, oh, well, this just isn't... I was like, oh, well, this is just my version of Shepard. You know, it's not my character, obviously. It's just my version of BioWare's Shepard character. And which, again, isn't a bad thing, you know. I really enjoyed Mass Effect, I enjoyed Dragon Age, and, you know, I definitely freaking loved KOTOR. And, you know, it didn't really bother me too much, because making my own character isn't what I was really looking for in those games. You know, I was just looking for, you know, the experience, the story, and whatnot. But in an MMO, a massively multiplayer online game, you know, you can bet your ass I'm interested in making my own character. It's what I'm looking for, especially coming out of Star Wars Galaxies. You know, in Galaxies, I made Crunchbar. He was a smuggler. You know, it wasn't his defining role, he just happened to be a smuggler. In the Old Republic, you play as the smuggler, and anyone who picks the smuggler will play the smuggler's story. In Galaxies, I had Crunchbar join the Empire. You know, that was my choice, because I think the Empire was cool. In the Old Republic, the smuggler works for the Republic. You know, you aren't able to make a smuggler that works for the Sith Empire. You know, that's out of your hands. That's part of who the smuggler is. He works for the Republic, and that's that. And it's like that the whole way. You know, this is the smuggler's story. These are the people the smuggler meets. He goes to this planet, then to this planet, then to this planet. You're just going through the motions to see what the developers have already written. Star Wars Galaxies, you know, half-decent game that it was, did allow me to create my own character. You know, Galaxies presented an immersive take on the most iconic era of Star Wars. And through my character, Galaxies allowed me to live my life in the Star Wars universe. You know, it was just like the old commercials for Galaxies used to say, "Experience the greatest saga ever told. Yours." You know, it was just like that. It was great. And I look forward to the day that I can experience that again. But I can guarantee you, it will not be with the Old Republic. Whew. Yeah, that's all I had written. Good thing I wrote that all down. I sure as hell wouldn't have remembered all that. But yeah, Star Wars Galaxies, the Old Republic. Just don't compare the two. It's like if you're coming from Star Wars Galaxies and you're like looking for anything that Star Wars Galaxies had going into the Old Republic, you know, other than like the most superficial things, like they're both Star Wars RPGs, MMOs. If you're looking for anything from Star Wars Galaxies going into the Old Republic, you're not gonna find it. You know, they're designed from the ground up to basically be completely opposite from one another. So yeah, Star Wars Galaxies, it's holds a special place in my heart. You know, that might sound silly to you. You know, it's just a game. Get over it, dude. But you know, that's just how I am with Star Wars Galaxies. And with that, I guess I can just start ending off the episode. You know, thank you guys so much for watching, so much for listening to me just kind of ramble on about my personal opinion. It might be nonsense, might not be. You know, it's for you to decide. And yeah, I guess this will be my final entry in my series of Star Wars Galaxies videos. You know, this has been Super Vader Man. This has been Kalando. I want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys so much for watching. And may the Force be with you. Always.